Welcome to What You Gotta Say. I'm Vincent Squire. I want to thank you all for joining. Now, as always, we're going to ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and on our Facebook links, like and share as well. Now, we've got an exciting topic, how to love your strong black woman. And we've got a guest, Dr. Laura Laurie. She is the couples doctor. But we're going to come back in 1 minute, 10 seconds.
To small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you going to find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. Maybe able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
Welcome back. Now, if you're like me, you have ran into the strong Black woman, and some are even married to the strong Black woman. And I know the rabbi is going to get up here and says that he has never married a strong Black woman. Yet, knowing her, and she's a rabbi, he's married a strong woman too. So what we got today is our special guest, and we're going to talk about some of the issues dealing with a strong Black woman and how to love your strong woman. But first, let me introduce my guest. She is Dr. Laura Lewis. She's a licensed psychologist. She graduated from Florida State University with a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in counseling. She completed the American Psychological Association accreditation internship at Florida International University in beautiful sunny Miami. Her PhD was earned from Howard University's APA accredited counseling psychology program. Now, Dr. Lori has been working in the field of psychology for 10 years and has the expertise in multicultural counseling and couples counseling. She has specialized training in assisting couples with increasing intimacy, rebuilding trust, and especially after infidelity. She is one of the most sought after speakers, very dynamic. She has probably one of the most wonderful personalities, which she'll go really well with our group. She has spent several years teaching at a college level. She has taught the following colleges: and general psychology, family counseling, and multicultural foundations in teaching. And in portions of her studies and support teams coordinator at Amos, an elementary school. She has developed interventions for children with special needs and behavior concerns. And she has traveled the world. But we're going to dive into that a little bit more because I know you guys really, really love this ugly mug. Let's bring on from Atlanta, Georgia. Say hello to everybody to Dr. Laura Lewis. Hey, doctor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I love this amazing platform that you've built.
Oh, we're just doing our thing here. It's all about help. It's all about love. It's all about growth.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's definitely a pleasure to have you. Now, I've been stalking you on social media and and have attended a few of your actual seminars and lectures. Also, what I find most impressive is your body of work. And calling and speaking to your receptionist, she immediately informed me that you're booked and cannot take on any more cases. So I appreciate your work and I appreciate you being on the show and taking the time with us. Let's get into it. Strong Black woman. We deal with a lot of misconceptions of a strong Black woman. In fact, in research, we found that a university in San Francisco had basically coined or studied strong Black woman and turned it into Black superwoman. And according to their findings and the woman that they studied, the superwoman was an actual facade to deal with racism. Is that a strong Black woman?
I think there's been so much that Black women have had to deal with just to manage the household, sometimes even by themselves, like manage a household. And so they've had to deal with just like so many stressors of single parenthood and sometimes having to take on the financial burden. And so that comes with a lot.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say this: being a man of color, if it wasn't for the strength of the black woman, the black men would have been extinct in the 70s.
Mm, yeah.
So how, I mean, they've been doing that for so long. And you look at statistics, black women excel over black men an average of 5 times to one. In fact, black women get their degrees in bulk and their postgraduate and doctorates comparison to men on an average of 8 times to one. So where are their stressors? It seems like to me they're winning.
There's an idealized view of gender roles that exist in American society. And so part of that is having a provider, having a protector. And so for black women, a lot of times they have to cook the bacon, bring home the bacon, bring bread and all of that. And so that's an added pressure that I don't know if other cultures experience in the same way that black women do.
Okay, well, let's look at it. Strong black woman and angry black woman. They don't, people tend to merge them together.
Hmm. I
Why?
think for men to speak their mind and to hold on to their convictions, there's a lot of respect for men who are able to do that. Whereas for women who hold on to their convictions and speak firmly, then there's this essence of, oh, you're just angry, putting off like some of what comes in the truth of a black woman's experience, which is unfortunate.
Hmm, well, let's look at the black woman experience. I mean, let's see. Um, there's one now who is the vice president. And not only is she the first woman to be vice president, but woman of color. By the way, I wanted to ask you for my wife. You wouldn't happen to be an AKA, would you?
I'm not. No.
Okay, well, I mean, you said Howard, so I mean,
Go
but okay.
here.
But so let's see. Also, she is next in line, or to be heir apparent of the next presidential or the presidency after the, of course, next presidential election. We are looking at women, black women, breaking glass ceilings. In fact, shattering glass ceilings in terms of economics and wow, education, production, management, entrepreneurship. I mean, so where does the problem exist with this
I think
divide?
it's important to consider that these black women have excelled despite their circumstances, but there have been like historical and systemic racism that affects us all, but especially the black woman. And so despite these circumstances, we have outliers that we can look to that has risen above some of the oppression that we've had to face. But I think, make no mistake, they still exist. These stressors, these pressures, this oppression, the systemic racism still exists.
Mm, strong black woman versus bossy black woman. Because you're bossy and angry, does that make you strong?
I don't think so. I think there's a natural femininity that comes with being a woman. And so I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a very beautiful thing, the femininity that women have. And so for a woman to espouse that, and know what they want and be able to obtain what they want in a way that doesn't sacrifice the femininity of who they are, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Okay, let's look at the pressures and stress that they're going through. Now, you're looking at pressures, you're looking at stress, but I'm still seeing success.
Mhm.
So, let me say this, and I know my sister's watching the show, and yes, I'm talking about you. So, I get sick and tired of hearing the cry of the strong black woman. every family gathering, they all get together and they say the same thing. I've got this degree, I've got that degree, I've got this house that's that many square feet, I've got a luxury car, I've got a great job, I'm making a lot of money. I can't find a man. Is that common with strong black women, or is that just common with black women?
Well, no, it is common with Black women. When we look at the research and we look at women who have higher levels of education, particularly Black women, their marriageability or the rate in which they get married goes down with their level of education. And so that's not the case with other ethnicities.
Okay, so let's look at, okay, they're excelling above. So what's wrong with them having a man who has not as many degrees or no degrees?
I don't think it's anything wrong with wanting someone that has your same level of ambition and drive.
Ambition and drive. So that's one of the big reasons why we're finding all of these strong black women who are really breaking barriers, marrying white men.
Well, the research actually shows that Black men are more likely to marry outside of their race than Black women are.
No, that explains my second wife. But okay, so what we're going to do now is, because one of the best things about this show is that I surround myself with people who are much, much, much smarter than me. So we usually have the three wise ones, but I'm hoping by the time we finish with this break, we'll be up to three again. I'm Vincent Squire. We're going to dive into some issues with the strong black women. We're going to bring on our three wise ones, and we're going to do it in 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
To small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you going to find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. Maybe able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
Welcome back to our show. Now, the topic is how to love your strong black woman. And with me, as always, the three wise ones. He hails from Pennsylvania. He is the present rabbi of, what's the congregation, Rabbi?
The New Shul of America.
New Shalom of America. He is also a former vet, very experienced, very knowledgeable. I'd like to welcome Rabbi Seth Frisch.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, she hails from Delaware. This woman has more hats than a woman's boutique in Neiman Marcus. She has multiple degrees. She is the Army chaplain of the United States Army, just got promoted to the swearing-in chaplain at the White House. She is a major in the United States Army, and she is also, like our guest, she's an author of a few books. We'd like to welcome Reverend Dr. Major Shellerine Lang.
I'm glad to be here. Let me just clarify. I'm the installation chaplain for the National Guard Bureau.
Yes, there we go. Just what I said. Okay. Our next guest is Iman Karib Bashir. He hails from Newark, New Jersey.
No,
I-
actually, Ewing,
Ewing, New Jersey. Yes, he is the
or Trenton. You could say Trenton. It's a
Trenton.
suburb.
Yeah, well, people still call that Middle New Jersey, but that's who you
Yes.
talk to. He is the first black captain of a fire battalion and first black fire battalion chief. He is very knowledgeable in the Quran. Not only that, he's been really catching up on his Torah. And he has been voted by our survey the most relatable and likable. I'd like to welcome Iman Karib Bashir.
Thank you very much. It's a blessing to be here.
It's a blessing to have you all. Now, our other host, in case anybody of our regulars notice, Eric Dawson is dealing with an emergency. We hope that all goes well for him, and we hope to see him again on our next episode. By the way, tune in next week. We're going to talk about some race and medicine with Dr. Vincent Deidre and the National Association of Black Nurses. So this is going to be an exciting show. Now, let's go into a panel. The strong black woman.
Well, I guess I can have some personal experience with that.
Oh, no, we would never think that.
I would say that a strong black woman is not a threat to a strong black man.
Oh, yes, she is.
A strong black woman, because when you're strong, to me, that means that you have a sense of self, that you're comfortable with who you are. It takes some weakness to be intimidated by somebody else. So a strong black woman with a strong black man, you're going to have relationship issues, but you won't have that dynamic of hierarchy. You won't have that dynamic of intimidation. You might have some other things, but it's only when you have an imbalance of power per se. And I would say the best way to love a strong black woman is to love yourself first. If you love yourself first, then you learn how to love her.
But not every relationship has that kumbaya moment. So,
You're right about that.
Well, let's look at it. Strong black women, do they compete with their black men?
I think strong black women compete with other strong black women. Right? Because you got to consider, you can't compete. A woman can't compete with a man.
No, you can't sell that, because you get two strong black women in the room who are angry, and they're usually angry about that man.
Not every strong black woman is angry about a man.
Vincent,
And
can I ask
then
you, where do
on
you
top
come
of
up with
that,
these things?
you have a biblical mandate of sexism that makes this whole thing, that's a game changer for this whole thing.
Well,
Even though the Bible liberates us, there are men who misappropriate the Bible and misrepresent God and hold women hostage to a societal construct that is absolutely ridiculous.
I have no
Listen.
idea what she's talking about. Zero.
Look.
I fully understand what she's saying, and I agree with a good portion of it. Yes.
Well, I'll say this in terms of sexism, you know that there are some black men who are card-carrying members of the Knuckle Dragon He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Oh, yes. I haven't met any.
No.
By the way, I just mentioned that there's some white men like
hold
that,
on, guys. I want you to move off the screen. I don't want y'all to get hit by that lightning coming for Dr. Lang. So,
Well, I would say this, and I've mentioned this before. Words make people. In terms of how we internalize it, how we understand phrases, and I think that this phrase carries a lot of positiveness, but at the same time, too, how it has been used and how it's viewed oftentimes will carry a negative. And we can look at it in terms of different compartments. Okay, a strong black woman, okay, in the educational field, in the business life, in the personal life, in the married life. But it's just been given as one phrase that's applied to everything. And at the same time, too, I think it causes division. But once we know ourselves and we can come back to our natural selves, I don't really see it as a problem.
oh, wait a minute, doctor, is there a problem?
Which doctor?
No, I'm sorry,
There's definitely a
Dr.
problem.
Laura.
Wait, hold on.
There's
Did you
definitely
say
a
that there's a
problem.
witch doctor here?
I said which.
Oh, you said there's a witch doctor?
Vincent,
Really
Vincent,
expanded this
Vincent,
field here,
don't
guys.
misunderstand me. I'm not saying that there's not a problem, but what I'm saying is that we have created more of a problem, and it's oftentimes because we don't understand ourselves and and moving forward and how to apply that in relationships.
Dr. Laura.
You're right. I think there definitely is a problem. And I think that we should find some way to create more egalitarian gender roles where there's some sense of shared power in our relationships with men and women. We have to find a way to do that. And some of our religious systems have not served us well in that regard. And so I think that those are some spaces that we can start to affect change in Black male-female relationships. I'd like to see that happen.
So our religious systems in terms of the masculinity of the Bible or the Quran or the Torah.
Well, that's a stronghold. Ain't nobody gonna let go of that because you gotta look at it realistically, right? So let's look at it from the creation story.
Yes, because they still recite where he says, "Let your woman be silent in church."
So listen, let's look at it. Let's go back to the beginning in Genesis. God created the heavens and the earth. The only time God said something was not good was when Adam was created. God said this was good, that was good, this was good, that was good. But when Adam was created, said it's not good for him to be alone. So that's when woman was created to make the not good good. So how then can a woman who's created to make the not good good now become the doormat instead of the helpmate? She becomes the helpmeet.
Well,
so that begins a systematic process of making her less than. And so if you look at how we make her less than, then we can see how she's held hostage to a negative understanding of who she is.
Well, I can tell you one thing, Vincent. This Dr. Lang, she is never going to preach in my church. That's for sure.
That's it, Doctor. You can take that off your bucket list. It's not gonna.
Oh man.
Well, actually, the story in the Quran is slightly different. It does not attribute to the woman as being one who brought down Adam or who whispered to Adam. Actually, the standard in the Quran is much different than, unfortunately, what you see amongst Muslims and sometimes in the Muslim world. It's just culture that has developed over the years. But if they truly follow what the religion says, then it wouldn't be a problem in terms of looking at the female as being inferior or being one who caused Adam to fall.
Well, see, that's a big misinterpretation. When I started studying the Bible and I looked at that, no, it wasn't the woman who brought down Adam, and God even told him, no, I told you.
Yes.
Well,
and he punished him.
Let me tell you how biblically it has turned, because if you look in Genesis 3, where it talks about how when the punishment came down, it said the enmity would be between the snake and the woman's seed. Right. So there's this whole dichotomy of the issue between that. So if you look at what it says, it says, ye shall desire your husband, ye shall desire. And
there
so
you go.
move
Thank you, Lord.
ye shall desire, and he will rule over you. He shall rule over you. So her movement to want him causes her to be less than, because Adam moved when he saw, wait a minute, when he saw her, he knew who she was. But then when the whole went down with the snake, then it was that woman you gave me. So her movement and her desire to want him and not God makes him rule over her. That's not a God mandated move.
Oh, but let's not break out the most important part. He said that you're going to experience pain through labor, and through all that pain that you're going to experience, you still going to want him. Thank you, Lord.
That is crazy.
And crazy for you. It's a blessing for the man.
They've made it prescriptive that he will rule over her, but the real, if you go back to the original language, it's he shall, which means that it was his choice. It's not God saying that's the way it's supposed to be. That's God saying, because of your choice, now that's what's going to happen to you.
Rabbi, what saith the Torah?
Oh my God. I am just sitting here waiting for the lightning bolts to descend on that part.
Oh no,
I,
No.
I don't, I, the most important question I have for you, Dr. Lang, I mean, I have so many questions for you, but how do you work that out that she will submit to him? How do you work that out? And simultaneously, serve in the ministry representing that is the foundation of your faith. I don't know how you.
here's how.
Yeah.
You have to get her to surrender her will to the lie. When you get her to surrender her will to the lie that she was not created to make the not good, and you make her believe that she is less than, then she will surrender her will and just go along to get along. And she will never have,
That's it.
you
Well,
can
see,
never
I
have an
would-
authentic relationship with God and you believe that you were created to be less than. It's impossible.
Well,
That's
one of the things
correct,
that we
yes.
do in the tradition of the Torah that we see it, and this part about subjugating that's a quagmire that, it's very difficult to extricate yourself from that. But I look at what it says in the Hebrew that she's created to be an Ezer in Hebrew, Ezer Kenegdo, which means literally
help.
and figuratively as well, but literally to be a helpmate
Mhm.
to him.
Oh, yeah.
I understand how Dr. Lang might interpret that, as erroneous as her interpretations seem to follow at this point, but it is not in any way meant to become second rate or servant to. It's to become complementary both towards, to, and united in the flesh.
I agree, Rabbi.
Yes.
If
Okay.
the expression of that was manifested that way, we wouldn't be in this situation. But there are men who have
that's true.
taken that and have made her less than. And
Right.
now you
Okay.
have a whole generation of women who don't even know who they are.
Well, Dr. Lang, that
I
would
agree
not be in
with
my
that.
family, not in
Hold
my
on,
family.
one at a time.
Yeah, because basically, like in our holy book, the Quran, it says that we only submit our wills to God, to Allah, not another human being, male to female, female to male, only to Allah. Now, there is a concept that's known as Qawama, and it basically means to maintain, to protect, and to provide. And that responsibility is given to the man. And oftentimes it's taken out of context by people who try to understand it, and also people in the faith themselves.
And people who want to manipulate it.
Exactly. Now, for example, if you're in the army, someone has to be in charge. You have a captain, or you have a major, or whatever. If you have a fire department, if you have a police department, or whatever, you could have any type of company. Someone has to be in charge. So we believe that God has given that right to the man. However, we are also cautioned to have what's known as called shura, which means mutual consultation. So that doesn't mean, okay, you beat your chest. Oh, I'm the Qawama, I'm in charge. No, it means that you have mutual consultation. Sometimes her ideal or concept might be better than yours, and you should adhere to that or go with that. But if for some reason after mutual consultation you cannot come to an agreement, then the man, that is his responsibility. Not that he's over, but we believe that God has given him that responsibility. And with that responsibility comes protection, comes providing. And so I think if people look at it in that way, it won't be the jabbing back and forth. But unfortunately, I think this society has created a divide between the man and the woman. And what we say in Islam, we say that we have a fitra, which is the natural disposition that God created us in. It's just that we take it to the extremes. And I think that and there has been studies with just little boys and little girls, even before they get to the point where they have been indoctrinated with so many different things, you just see this naturalness. I see it with my grandchildren. The boys will automatically try to protect their little cousins and all. That's so.
Well,
Okay.
let me just say that. Let me just break in for a
What do
second
you
here.
say about kind of
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
on Black woman as far as like some of the socioeconomic pressures? Because I hear you saying it's for the Black man to lead and to provide, and so for those Black men that are struggling to
Mhm.
some of these roles that you describe, what do you say to that Black woman that's having some of the undue pressure put on her to be in this position?
Ooh,
Mutual
ooh, ooh.
mutual
Can I?
consultation. Mutual consultation. There are I people right now in my congregation where the wife is actually they're medical doctors, and the husband, he just has a blue collar type job. So their standard of living is really based upon the medical doctor's income. But they have an understanding, but it still doesn't absolve him of protecting, right? Trying to maintain the family, those types of things. But they have an understanding. And because of that understanding, the man is not jealous. Well, let me back that up. That the man should not be jealous,
He
or he
is.
should not feel intimidated. And at
He
the same
is.
time, the woman should not feel as though, well, I'm running the show.
She
because
does.
well, and you're right. In a lot of cases, that is true. But if we're acting in accordance with what we call our fitra, then that shouldn't happen. But of course,
Oh,
we all know that it does.
okay, Rabbi, I want you to make your comment and then take us to break.
Okay. So a lot of this, although it seems almost like it's skirting the issue, but a lot of this, at least in the tradition from whence I come, is really centered in not about a man and a woman, such as our guest today is, talking about these kinds of relationships, but it's more centered on family. In other words, there's an idea that we're creating family. That was the purpose, at least for the Adam and Eve of the biblical tradition that I'm aware of. It was the purpose for them to create family, and therefore a man would, while his wife would be bringing up the family, bringing forth the family, bringing it up, a man would come out and provide. And so you begin to see this structure. But it doesn't always work out that way. And I just wanted to mention that in the Hebrew tradition, going back even to the time, as Vincent knows, even to the time of Moses, who's left with the child? It's the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother is left to raise the child. And oftentimes, both biblically and otherwise, the men are out gallivanting around the world, as they are even today. And guess what? The woman is left holding the bag. And that's how we have chosen to define, at least in the Jewish Hebraic tradition, we've chosen to define our peoplehood, our nationhood, or our religious faith dependent on the woman's line, not on the man, because it's the woman who's structurally given the right, the responsibility, the honor, and the blessing of raising the family. So it's outside the issue, but it speaks directly to the Hebraic understanding of family and the dynamic between man and woman.
Okay, Rabbi, take us to break.
Well, we have a spirited conversation here in which one of our wise ones has rightfully pointed out that there are inconsistencies between what is written in our traditions and perhaps how it is manifested in our world today. And I can see that my brother and my colleague, the Imam, has brought out important helpers.
Rabbi,
yes,
take
sir?
us to, it's a hard break.
Okay, hard break. You know what?
Okay.
The Imam is speaking good. That's a hard break.
And we'll
To small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you gonna find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. May be able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
With our special guest, Dr. Laura, the couples doctor, and of course, as always, our three wise ones. Before the break, we talked about the difference in the breakdown and disconnect that we're having with our societal norms versus our traditional beliefs. Dr. Laura, is that one of the huge problems that you see in your couples counseling?
What problem is that?
The gender role breakdown of the traditional, according to thus saith the God, the Lord, and what people are doing now in terms of our society.
Yeah, I do see that coming up a lot, where for a lot of Black couples, there's this feeling of like, I want that. Like, I want that traditional like view of how our roles are going to look like. But to be able to obtain that, it's challenges that exist within it. And so oftentimes the Black woman has to take on more of the bulk of the responsibility. And as the rabbi mentioned, not being able to stay at home and tend to the children as she may want to, she has to go out and work. And for the family to survive, it's needed to have dual incomes, and sometimes just relying on the woman's income.
Oh, but let's look at it. Over 40% of the Black women make more than their men.
Mm-hmm.
And they say they're being underpaid.
And unfortunately, they are. Even though Black women are going into entrepreneurship far more than any other ethnic group, they're making the least amount. And so it's unfortunate that we have to work so hard and still not make equitable salaries.
Yes, but how does that translate to the home?
I think how it translates to the home is sometimes for the man, there's this feeling of being emasculated. Of like,
there we go. Thank you. Yes. Isn't that feeling substantiated by what's going on? She now makes the money and decides to call the shots.
Well, I think that there are other ways that you can call the shots outside of economically. You know, there are things that the male can do that can have fluidity in gender roles, like cooking, cleaning, tending for the children, that can create more of a balanced feeling in the roles.
You don't think that him being Mr. Mom isn't emasculating?
So is it your belief that to take care of your children, it takes away from your manhood?
No, that's not my point. My point is that if a man is consistently cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the children, and his wife is bringing in all of the dough, doesn't that emasculate him?
The household has to be ran, and there has to be balance in who's doing what. And so if one person is taking on the boatload of a responsibility in one area, just for the relationship to feel balanced and equitable, someone is going to have to step up and take care of those other areas.
Okay.
Now, man or the woman, it just depends on the circumstances.
Okay, Iman, you're muted. You want to take your mute off?
I was going to say that, from a male standpoint, I think that if a man is in that situation, it should hopefully motivate him to try to do better. A true man, true father will take pride in looking after his children and doing things around the house, but that's not the role that he really wants.
No.
So it does kind of lower his self-esteem, but it should also push him to want to do better as well.
So now he's competing.
I wouldn't look at it as competing. I would look at it trying to create a better environment for the family. Now, as we move along with this conversation, I just want to establish something. The person that's speaking right now has been married for 43 years to
Oh,
the same person.
right.
All right,
All right.
and have a wonderful marriage. So I think I have a little bit of something to kind of add to the.
All three of my marriages don't get that high.
Okay.
But so go ahead, go ahead, Iman.
No, I'm finished.
Oh, okay. So all right. Now, so the man should better himself. He should be supportive of his strong black woman. How does a black woman? Okay. Uh.
I appreciate you
So.
taking this time to figure out how to say this the right way.
Hmm. Yeah, because in case you guys haven't realized it, I don't have a prenup. Okay.
Say what you gotta say, man.
So all right. So he is taking a stronger role. But if you remember the movie Soul Food, where, the guy lost his job and he started cooking and cleaning, and it was so bad that not even his brother-in-law was just giving him money, to increase that masculinity, because the rumor is that all woman says there's nothing worse than a broke a man.
Oh wow.
How?
I think part of the challenge is that men as a collective need to start speaking their own narrative, because you have a lot of societal constructs that say a man shouldn't be home, he should be the provider, he should be this, he should be that. So a societal construct, if that is what you subscribe to, then that's what you should strive through. But I don't believe that every man believes that, because when I was married, my husband stayed home with the kids while I went to school at night, and I worked during the day. Now, he was a minister of music, and he only had rehearsals at night. But during the day, while I was at school or I was at work, he kept the kids. And it was not an issue for us. It had nothing to do with his manhood. That was just the way that our family worked. Now, if he was concerned about what the society said about what he should do, then life would have been a lot different for all of us. But my kids appreciated having daddy home. And he was fine with it because his time to go to work was at night when he had rehearsal. So I think every man needs to decide what was right for him, and not to subscribe to a construct of what it means to be a man if that's not what he wants. Now, if that man is now struggling and he's feeling less than, then absolutely the imam is absolutely right. Then he needs to get up off his stuff and go do something different and provide in a different way. But that has to be the context of his relationship with that woman.
Okay. We're going to go to a break really quick. But before we do, this is what I was looking for and what I found with my wife and finding her. And it starts like this. I'll be reading Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 through 31. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband do say and trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoils. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She's like a merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is yet night and gives meat to her household and the portions to her maids. She considers a field and buys with the fruits of her hand. She plants a vineyard. She girds her loins with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands on the spindles, and her hands hold the staff. She stretches out her hands to the poor. She reaches forth her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes herself covered in tapestries. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes fine linens and sells it. She delivereth unto the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue the law of kindness. She looks well to the ways of her household, and eat not the bread of idleness. Her children wake up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excels them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruits of her hand, and let her own works praise her in the gates. We'll be back. 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Into small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you going to find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. May be able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
What you got to say. When we left, Vince was reading Proverbs 31, and I just happened to do my latest book. It's called Spiritual Alpha Female, Unleashing 9 Leadership Principles from Proverbs 31. And in that book, I talk about how that is a portrait of a woman, and it's impossible for a woman to live up to all of those things in Proverbs 31. And when you expect your woman to live up to all of that that's in Proverbs 31, you set her up for failure.
No.
But if you take the pieces of her that you can associate with that, if we strive to be her, okay. But if we hold a woman hostage to being all of that, and all of that is the only definition of the perfect woman, then she will never live up to that. Because this woman was an entrepreneur. She was a businesswoman. She was this, she was that. She was, and her husband.
She was a
loved her.
counselor. She was a healer. I mean,
She was a lot of things.
She got up early and cooked. She
Exactly.
sold.
And if she was all of those things,
Wait.
what was she to herself? When
Wait,
did
wait.
she have time for self-care? When did she have time to have a relationship with God? She was all things to all people, which is unrealistic. And what people don't talk about is that King Lemuel, his mama gave him that advice on how to pick a woman. So how many men are listening to what their mama say about what it means to find a woman? So my book is on Amazon. If you Google my name, all of my books will come up and that one will come up. But my question to the men is, what is it that you really want? When you think about Proverbs 31, which of those things in Proverbs 31 are the most important to you?
Oh, don't everybody speak up at once.
I got nothing to say. I got nothing to say.
Rabbi, I guess your wife is somewhere in the next room.
It doesn't even make any difference. I don't want anything to go on record of what I would actually say if I had anything to say.
This is actually what I want. In fact, in finding a woman. When I was younger and I was looking, I wasn't looking for a woman to marry. I was looking for a woman to do other things with. But when I was a boy, I did boy things. When I became a man, I started looking for a woman who could fit some of those things. I looked for a woman who was a wise counselor. I looked for a woman who understood economics. I looked for a woman who was not lazy and idle. I looked for a woman who loved the Lord and that every word or words that come out of her mouth reflect that. I look for a woman to be my helpmate and my strength, because being a strong Black man has some disadvantages too. I look for her to be by me, be by my side, not to be submissive or subservient to me, but to be my mate. I look for somebody that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with.
Well, I applaud that, Vince. That's very good.
Yeah,
Oh well, don't
that
tell
is.
anybody because
I'd like to,
it's gonna kill my woman my woman hating.
No, actually, that was very good.
now I'd
Vince.
like
It really
Dr.
was.
Lang and Imam, I'd like to get Snopes.com in on that statement just to fact check it. All right. That's all.
In fact,
Well,
yeah, but you know, none of us are perfect, and I think sometimes we're looking for perfection in the other person when in fact, we're not perfect ourselves.
right.
And in terms of the strong Black woman too, I think that because of our from a historical point of view, right up into the current time, has pretty much forced a lot of women to be the quote strong Black woman. But I think where it has actually been detrimental, at least in one of the ways, is in relationships.
What-
And so I think that we need to do a
We-
little
we-
bit more introspection relative to that.
We dealt with a society, and our government was key in destroying the Black family by
Yeah,
separating
sure.
the father from the home. If
Yep.
they were in need of public assistance, the man couldn't live there.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
right.
you have to go back to that Willie Lynch letter. There is a whole section, the breaking of the Black woman. And when you
Mhm.
look at the intricate detail and attention to detail that is paid, and how you psychologically change the thought pattern and the heart pattern of a Black woman and her reliance on the Black man, you can see remnants of that today.
Oh, definitely.
What do you see it, Doctor Laura?
Absolutely, I see it. I'm so glad that you quoted that letter, the Willie Lynch letter, and Mr. Vincent, that you talked about like the destruction of the Black family, because when you separate the family unit and then for a man to be present, it's like to the detriment of like economic support. Like then where does that leave the whole family system? And so it's unfortunate.
Where does it lead? This is what we got. We've got men graduating from college and have to be told not to wear high heels.
But no, you also have to look at mass incarceration, because
Yeah.
that has robbed men of seeing men. Like, how can you be a good husband if you've never seen a good husband? How can you be a good father if you've never seen a good father? How can you be in a relationship if you've never seen a relationship because your father's been in jail your whole life? So now you got trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, and you have a woman who is forced, like Imam said, forced into a role of being mother and father because the system has ripped him away. So we got a lot of things going on.
But we have women who believe that they are so strong that they can be perfect, wonderful fathers, and then and arguably down in counseling. So I expressed to her, "How did you teach your son how to pee standing up?"
That's a good question. I think women have been forced to, when you think about trauma, right? I'm doing this doctorate degree in traumatology, that we have a way of telling ourselves a lie so much that it becomes our current reality, becomes our truth. So if you have a woman who knows that there's not going to be a man, then she's got to get into an emotional and intellectual space where she tells herself she doesn't need him so that she can survive. So you got a lot of women in survival mode who've been in survival mode so long, they don't even know that that's not their true state.
No. Go ahead, doctor.
Types of situations, like it's hard as a psychologist. I find that it's hard for women to thrive when they're having to take on all of these roles. I have to have the masculine role of teaching my son how to be a man, and I gotta have this feminine role of being like a mother. It's hard to hold space for both of those things.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think also too that unfortunately, I think not all women, but I think a lot of women have been duped or indoctrinated with the concept that men lazy. He's not going to do right. He's going to cheat. He's going to do these things. So there's a shield. There's like a protective shield there. And then with a constant reminder of quote the strong Black woman. Again, I think that creates an artificial environment for the couple.
Well, one of the things.
Wait, let me just say this. Isn't a strong Black woman reflective of a certain reality? In other words, we sometimes have a woman I mean, I don't know how it is in your community, but I think in our community, when you have a woman who is, because of the absence of men, she's raising her family. It's a reality.
Definitely.
I mean, look, even if you look at it biblically, it's Moses' mother who's left holding the bag.
That's right.
And she puts him in the Nile, not exactly the safest place in the world, but it's the only place that she knows to put him. And, he supposedly is raised in the palace or raised in the, the slave huts. But he's raised by no men. And the only time he finds any positive role model is when he leaves that entire environment, goes out into the center of Midian, into a world of literally colored people that are colored like him. And he finds a father-in-law who now acts like a father, and he finds peace and solace, and he can have a wife and he can have a family because he has a role model. It's a different reality than he came from.
Are strong black women raising entitled, lazy black boys who become lazy, entitled, do nothing black men?
I think that's a broad stroke. That's a broad stroke for a broad question. You have some black men who are raised by a strong black woman who are killing it in the game. And if it wasn't for their mama, they wouldn't be as strong as they are. So then you have the other end of the spectrum where she coddles him because maybe she has transposed the lack of maleness in her life that now she superimposes on her son. So now he's totally confused about what the boundaries are for a woman and a man. And he can no longer function in a relationship because he doesn't even know how to function as a man.
Right.
Mm. Right. Well, that was emasculating. Thank you very much. Enjoyed that second circumcision. So
Right. But, you know what? I'd just like to add something too. I think that the, for lack of a better term, I'll just say the pop culture has contributed to the wedge between a lot of couples. I mean, what's projected in terms of the media, movies, TV, in terms of, the black man and the black woman, it's kind of an acceptable thing I know you're like this, Vince, the rolling of the neck and the putting the hand on the hip and you can't do this and you can't tell me, those kind of things. That's actually pushed constantly in the pop culture that we have. And I think it delays the true coming together of the man and the woman.
Oh, well, wait a minute. Didn't we see our vice president do the neck roll?
And I would like to see more examples in our media of seeing a black man love a black woman without this popping and all of that. It just really labels us in a negative light that is not the true essence of black women, I believe.
But Doc, you're you're based in Atlanta, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to disrespect my brother, because we love him, but Tyler Perry, a lot of his things, to me, they perpetuate the types of things that we're talking about now. Really, I mean, I mean, if you look at a lot of his shows. They do exactly that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I don't want to go, he does a lot of great things as well. But I think a lot of his shows, they do perpetuate some of the things that
the media perpetuates the black man in three roles: the thug, the moron, or the emasculate.
And there's got a movie in there that's got a strong black man who loves a strong black woman.
Who's got one?
Saying that all of his stuff is like that.
No. Well, no, he does have a little diversity but we'll get into Tyler Perry because that's a whole new show, and it is 4:00. So if we got a couple more minutes with Dr. Laura, we'll continue on. If not, we're going to close. I'm sorry, it was a good, exciting. So it's up to you, Doctor.
Yeah, I'm okay with going on a few. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now we're going to take a break, and this is going to be a real short break. And because we're got some extended time with Dr. Laura, and I want to keep this going, we're going to find out what is it going to take and how a black man can love a strong black woman. And we'll be back in just 1 minute, 4 seconds.
To small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the Black community spent $1.5 trillion because the Black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the Black communities. Major brands target the Black media, TV, and radio. That's why Blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful Black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new Black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you gonna find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a Black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. May be able to get on our Black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
And we're back. Welcome back, everyone. Yes, and we're blessed because Dr. Laura has agreed for a couple more minutes so we can work on the actual healing. Doctor, I know you do a lot of counseling. I know you've been just about everywhere in the four corners of the earth, talking to people, giving them healing. What can a man do to support and love a strong Black woman, yet still remain a man?
That's a good question. So I've traveled a lot. I've gone to over 20 countries, Africa, Europe, Asia, Brazil. And what I find is that the core is communication. If couples cannot communicate, then that's what leads to divorce. But for couples who are able to feel heard, understood, they're able to push through.
Sorry, I'm angry with you. I'm not talking to you. So, no. And I had to explain to my wife because she says, I can tell that you're, a little different because you're silent. Go figure. And she asked me why. So I had to explain to her that, no, I'm not talking to you because I'm angry. I'm not talking because I'm angry. And I need to formulate how to talk to you without it coming out as being angry.
That was very mature.
That is very emotionally mature, because what some people do is like, I'm just going to tell you how I feel. How I feel. And a lot of damage happens in those moments.
Yes,
so
it does.
Respect to realize I need to take a moment to collect my thoughts till I'm ready. That's very emotionally mature.
No, because a lot of it you look at, big spoiler alert, I'm a passionate guy.
What?
Yeah, I know, big shock there. But in the event of a disagreement, I'm still got a huge level of passion. And I need that to subside so that she can hear the logic of the conversation. What I find is that there are two types of arguments or disagreements. There's one who is arguing the point, and there's the other who's arguing to win.
Right.
That is
And-
so.
Well,
Like sometimes
Imam,
win and really lose your marriage because you want to be right. Because no, I'm gonna get the last word, and then now you've lost your home, your family, but you right. You
Your
felt-
house, your kid, the car, the dog.
Yeah.
I think it
Actually,
comes
in
down
our,
to
I'm sorry, go
it
ahead,
comes
Doc.
down to either you want to be right or you want to do the right thing. And sometimes doing the right thing is just backing down. But I'd like to hear from Imam, who's been married to a strong Black woman for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she is a strong Black woman, a beautiful woman as well. But I think some of it is the fact that we, as I mentioned before, in Islam, we say the word religion, but in Arabic it's actually deen. which means a way of life. So we live our married life incorporating our religious principles, even with argument. Vince, you brought this up. The Prophet Muhammad, praise and peace be upon him, even giving us advice in terms of arguments. It was right. You were right on point. He said that do not have a discussion while you are angry, because why you say things that, you know, you're sorry for later. So how many of us have the fortitude to just wait until we calm down? He also says, if you're standing, then sit. If you're sitting, then lay down. Why? Because each position is not a position of authority. When I'm standing over top of you or face to face, that's a position of authority. But if I'm sitting, is more of a humble position. Matter of fact, can you imagine arguing with your wife while you're laying down? I told you what to do. You know, it's like, it just doesn't fit. So we do those types of things. And then he says also too, is that say prayer, and then afterwards. So that's just an example how, and that's why I asked Dr. Laura about the couples that she see, is because I think that if you bring the religious principles into the marriage, not like it's something separate, it will help you. But I'm look, my wife is she's secure with who she is. I am secure with who I am. And I think that, you know, we complement each other. So
Okay. Dr. Laura.
I know
Oh, go ahead.
because of how can two walk together unless they agree? It's something about being in agreement of like, we're going in this direction that I think brings a lot of healing, which it sounds like what you are experiencing in your own marriage.
yeah.
Well, you see that disagreement in marriage leads to two people taking, one family taking two cars to church.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know something, as a man though, sometimes I think we just go overboard. Well, all of us have heard that expression. Well, how does it go? Happy wife, happy life. You know,
That's
I think
a lie.
sometimes, no, listen, man.
That's no.
Sometimes